depending on, I suppose, which Conservative you might ask about maybe an eventual Boris Johnson comeback. There are a lot of Conservative who are convinced that Boris, namely Nadine Dorries, is the only person who can turn these dire fortunes of doom and gloom of the Conservative Party around and lead them to a glorious victory at the next general election. Now, here's the thing. There are still sort of true believers that Jonson still has this election magic, as as it's called, that can somehow win the Conservatives the next general election. But if you look at the opinion polls of Boris Johnson, Johnson's election magic had failed spectacularly. Remember, after the 2019 election, there was a by-election in Hull not too long after the 2019 general election. And that was the only by-election that Boris Johnson managed to win. In fact, I think it took place a week or two after the 2019 general election, if I remember correctly. And since then, under Johnson, they lost by-election after by-election after by-election and took a massive beating at the May local elections. Johnson's popularity was tanking long before he'd done anything else. And the predictions, unfortunately, of a lot of people who said Boris was going to do absolutely terribly came well and truly founded. Because Boris, compared to his time at the City of London, where, shall we say, he was given a team of competence who could sort of surround Boris and do the job for him, when he became Prime Minister, he was allowed to choose his own team. And he chose a team of people who would not show him up, who would not say no to him, but say yes to him. And then, well, you saw the number of crises that were going on under Boris Johnson. And now this brings us to the hilarity that just recently happened at a London conference just a couple of days ago. Because, oh my word. And not only that, I want to emphasize this happened in London. This is the place where Boris Johnson made his name as mayor of London, winning, winning the London mayoralship. Because, Boris can reach out across the aisle and get people voting for him. And this is meant to be, home turf for Boris Johnson. And yet what happened was so embarrassing. This proves once and for all that not only putting Boris Johnson back in charge of the Conservative Party is a absolutely terrible idea, but it also goes to show you that this idea of the Johnson magic is well and truly done. So before we go getting into that, please do remember to hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can well buy me coffee. And of course, the Pony Club down below as well as the YouTube thank you button. And of course, remember to ring the bell as well so you get notifications about the channel. So what happened? Well, this, my friends, is hilarious and an epic fail which will go down in history as probably one of the most embarrassing moments of all time for Boris Johnson. And even he knew it, because after he said it, he tried to change the subject as quickly as possible. So what happened? So he was trying to use this moment to try and hit out at Rishi Sunak on this deal. And it's still, at the moment, unknown whether he will try and foment a serious rebellion. At the moment, he's sort of trying to raise the flag, but he isn't succeeding, and no one is, so to say, coming to his aid. So I don't think there will be a big rebellion, as a lot of people maybe were suspecting. I think there may be a token rebellion, maybe 10 MPs or so, but I think that will be it. But what did he have to say? So he said, I'm going to find it very difficult to vote for something like this myself, because I believe we should have done something very different, no matter how much plaster came off the ceiling in Brussels. What does that mean? Do something different. Boris had every opportunity to do something different. Just what? So, and again, it wasn't the plaster that was coming off the ceiling in Brussels, it was coming off the ceiling of number 10. But anyway, he continues. Continues to say, I hope that it will work out. I also hope that if it doesn't work, we will have the guts to employ that bill again, because I have no doubt at all that this is what brought the EU to negotiate seriously. Again, the EU were always ready to negotiate over the Northern Ireland thing. They've had that stance. We are ready. Let's sit down. Let's negotiate from day one. It has been the UK government that has not negotiated seriously or even thought about actual consequences of this. Because remember, this deal that Sunak has done was offered over 2 years ago, not only by the EU, but also potentially as an idea by the UK government. So this deal is nothing new. It is not a creation of Rishi Sunak. It is just something that had already been suggested that could work. And Jonson, when he was in government, turned this down, as did other members of the ERG, etc., etc. So we must always ask this question: why on earth are the Brexiteers willing to accept this deal now when they weren't willing to accept it 2, 3, 4 years ago? It's kind of strange, but it also says a lot of what is going on in the Conservative Party about Brexit. But anyway, this is where it got super awkward for Jonson, because he then asked the audience to raise their hands if they thought Brexit was a good idea. Now, remember, we have seen a lot of polls about this. And some Brexiteers, Jonson included, have dismissed these polls that, oh, they're not really a true reflection of what the country is saying. So he basically said the exact same question that had been said in these polls. Do you think Brexit's going well? Or do you think Brexit was a good idea? Only one hand apparently went up. There was no applause, no nothing. It drew a completely blank response. And in response, Jonson said, I got the feeling that might be the case as we went along. Wait, if you knew that was going to be the case as you went along, then why go through with Brexit in the first place? He continued to say, but I am undaunted. And then he tried to move on as fast as he could, because he knew talking about this was going to be huge, because it is an embarrassing moment for the person who was, again, meant to have got Brexit done. He said, the problem at the moment is about what we're not getting right now. I've said this before. It's a Brexit government or it's nothing. We got a massive mandate to change. People wanted change in their lives. People wanted to see things done differently. And I've got to put my hands up for this as much as anybody. We haven't done enough yet to convince them. So why didn't you do that? He makes the exact point that he had a massive mandate. Jonson could have brought this change and done things differently. Yet at no point did he actually make any serious attempts to do that. Because Brexit was about changing things, not for the greater good of the UK, but for a very small select few who would benefit from Brexit. Namely, most of the time it's been these very free market fundamentalist Brexiteers that would have benefited massively if they could just get rid of all these pesky EU laws and regulations. But anyway, he continues. So he finishes off. He says, we've yet to convince them that it can deliver the changes they want to see. And I think they are particularly dismayed about the small boat crossings about the channel. They also don't feel the economic change. We've got to break out of the model we're in. Well, why didn't you do that? And bear in mind, these small boats were happening before Brexit. Again, economic change. What economic change did Jonson offer? He offered nothing. So this is yet going to be another example. Not only has Jonson lost his touch, but now even he can recognize that I really shouldn't be talking about Brexit anymore because it's embarrassing. I mean, even he tried to change the topic to small boats and, oh, economic change. He did not anticipate that reaction from the audience. I can guarantee you that. But it just goes to show you this Jonson magic is well and truly over. He is not the force he was because he dove into that populism and he fed on it. But the thing is, at the end of the day, Jonson is very much a dyed in the wool hardcore conservative. He is very, very, very much a right wing conservative, and that is not popular. But when he could talk about Brexit and how amazing all these changes would be, well, what changes? You know, he's right. He had a massive mandate. He could have delivered a lot of change if he wanted to. But at no point did he even attempt to make those changes. So even Jonson, I think is worried about the direction that Brexit is going to go. So as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, we'll see you all next time.